And already my display picture is redundant. So as an English student, I've got a fair bit of reading to do, and I thought, wouldn't it be a hoot if I started doing videos about books and stuff? Then I realised Sable Court does it better, and decided against it. So some months passed, and by chance I discovered something horrifying. It turns out Sable Court doesn't like classics. I think I smell a niche to exploit. So in addition to crazy randomness, I'll also be doing some videos about classical books. Now don't worry, I'm not going to take the stand of it's a classic therefore it must be flawless. If I don't like something, trust me, you will know about it. And with that, let us begin. Jane Eyre is a book by Charlotte Bronte that throws expectations of womanhood in the Victorian period out of the window. The novel itself is broken up into 5 key scenes. The first is when she's a child with Mrs. Reed and her bastard children. The opening chapters make it clear of the class system that's in place in Victorian society at the time. I should wish her to be brought up in a manner suiting her prospects, continued my benefactress. To be made useful, to be kept humble. As for the vacations, she will, with your permission, spend them always at Lowood. The next part takes place in Lowood School with the decidedly insane Mr. Brocklehurst, who is a parody of both Christian extremism and also of hypocrisy. In one scene, Mr. Brocklehurst chastises a girl for having curly hair, and orders it to be shaven from her head, also the while her 2 luxuriously clad daughters are looking on at her. The third takes place with her as governess of Thornfield Hall. The fourth takes place with her finding her cousins, and the fifth with her reunion with Mr. Rochester. The novel uses a very simple narrative, and it's very easy to follow. The language is simple and plain and doesn't require translation, with a few exceptions being some Victorian vernacular that requires a little bit of translation, but other than that, it's perfectly easy to follow and very readable. The novel's main attraction is the protagonist's intrinsic sense of justice. Whilst there have been other novels that have dealt with the theme of justice, most often Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice or Persuasion, which I've found dull as anything, this is one of the first novels that I've read of the period that actually tackles it head-on and has a character that doesn't mind saying what they actually think. One example occurs very early on in the book. How dare I, Mrs. Reed? How dare I? Because it is the truth. You think I have no feelings, and that I can do without one bit of love or kindness. But I cannot live so. And you have no pity. I shall remember how you thrust me back, roughly and violently thrust me back, into the Red Room. This speech does also actually exemplify the pliability of people throughout their lives, as later on in the novel she does actually forgive Mrs. Reed, albeit on her deathbed. Her role as governess allows us access to all the social tropes of Victorian society. On the one hand, she can socialise with Rochester, while at the same time she can spend time with the servants in the kitchen. It becomes clear during the progress of the novel, however, that Mr. Rochester fancies Jane a little bit, and it is even hinted that Jane may have similar feelings. The novel is not what you might expect of a straightforward romance novel, but also deals with contentious issues of class and morality. There are also hints of the Gothic in the novel, with the mad woman in the attic, and there's also a bit of mystery in the middle. What's going on quite at Thornfield Hall? I personally love the novel. I think it's a great trope of morality, and it has this fantastic fantasy element to it. Okay, so the character of Jane probably wouldn't have got off as easily as this in actual Victorian society, and people like Charles Dickens probably portray things a little bit better, albeit with the fantasy twists with like Pip and stuff. But all the same, I love the novel for being able to portray a character that is very approachable, very likeable, and has this fantastic introspective sense of the world around her. One gripe I would have with the novel is that by around page 400 there's this farcical bit where she just happens upon her cousins, and later on there is the revelation that they are her cousins. It's a bit too sensationalist, it's almost along the Coronation Street line sort of narrative. But apart from that, for the majority of the book, it's fantastic. It just starts falling apart a little bit at the end. That aside, it's a great book and well worth reading. Personally, my favourite parts are at the start when she's a kid and she's this very ballsy woman. She becomes a little more sort of jaded as time goes on, but that sense of intrinsic morality is still there within her character. Hope to see you soon. Ta for watching.